Hey everyone, and welcome back. And today, of course, biggest smile on my face because we all saw what happened last weekend. We all saw the absolute demolition of Juventus. And, I feel like as a optimistic Milan fan, I feel like, I don't want to say I told you so because I can't say that. We all had massive doubts going into this game and how the season was potentially capitulating into what might not have been a top four finish, and it's still not finished yet. We still have to get our job done in the remaining games of this season. But I feel like that game in itself was such a reward for so many people involved. Wherever we talk about the fans, we talk about Pioli, the coach, we talk about the players who have always been. There's so much news going on about the players right now, and even management, people like Maldini. And in recent weeks, there have been quite a few negative videos that have been produced here because the news has been negative. We talk about the Donnarumma contract renewal. We talk about the European Super League. There's been so much negative stuff, and I feel like I'm just so happy to make a video which is actually good. It's positive because it's been an incredible performance. I feel like it was the most perfect performance of the year against Juventus, and I'm not going to break down the game. I can't do a tactical analysis for you guys, and if you guys want to look more into that, then probably go onto the website. There's lots of articles produced by the boys there and semplemilan.com. But I just want to break down why that victory that we had on the weekend was a victory for everyone involved. Firstly, that was huge for the fans, and you just saw it before the game. You saw how important this fixture was, this moment was for the fans, that they rocked up on Sunday morning at Milanello to, cheer the team on, get them up for this massive game. Regardless of the news going into it, the despair, it's still in that moment. We've still got a point to prove, and the fans were there and they G'd up the players. And I feel like the performance wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for the fans showing up in Milanello that morning and really bigging the team up. And we saw Ibra at the front of the team bus, screaming at the fans, getting their spirits up, and you just knew that was going to reflect onto the squad. And of course, we've seen this before in previous fixtures like the derby, and it's not been shown off in the team and their performance, but I feel like everything was leading to a performance from the team. So the fans have to get the praise for going into this game. And really, why this is also another big victory for us is you've got to look at the stats behind it. We've never won at Juventus' new stadium, and to go there and convincingly win 3-0 is just amazing. It's everything you want to see from the club who's trying to get their stature back and on the rise. And to take out a team which has been dominating the Serie A football and making this into a one-team league is it's amazing. It's amazing for a fan to see, like, us, myself. And it's sort of getting us out of this decade of despair, this decade of embarrassment. And that feels like ages ago now. We're not the finished article, don't get me wrong. We're not the finished article. But this is exactly the performances that we want to see as a club that is potentially on the rise and hopefully going back into the competition that we belong in, which is the Champions League. So yeah, the victory was rewarding fans for staying optimistic. And I know it's very easy to fall off the wagon when things aren't going your way. And I feel like this victory is most important for this person here, which is Stefano Pioli, the head coach of Milan. Someone who, in my opinion, if you follow me for the social media platforms, is unfairly being criticised for how the squad's developed this season. And I know it. We've been incredible for the first half of it in 2020, and things just have caught up with us, whether it's been squad's lack of experience, injuries, suspensions, whatever it might be, or, lacking to change things up at the right moment or against a back three formation. All these things, I get it. The man's human. And Pioli showed up in the perfect way on Sunday against Juventus, and we can't critique him. It was a perfect performance from the squad. It was a perfect performance from him. Going into this game, we saw the starting lineup predictions. We saw Brahim Diaz starting and putting out Çalhanoğlu on the left, and we're all fearing the worst. Why isn't he playing Rebic? Why isn't he playing Leao? How's this going to go down? We've got no chance of winning this now. It was perfect. The risk that he did with playing Brahim Diaz, who got the first goal, obviously, and even got the penalty, his performance was impeccable. And it just goes to show, and also when he brought on Rebic later in the game, that intensity was needed and gave him the space he needed to open up and get the second goal, and obviously kill off Juventus, who were lacking pace and in their rigid formation. I feel like he just played that game perfectly. He had all week to prepare for it. Pioli just got everything spot on, the substitutions, everything. And we need to praise the guy. I think it's just not done enough. Obviously, when we're winning, we do it, but we need to be very patient with a guy who has led us to, these great heights. And you can sit there and say, what great heights are they? What cups have we won this season? But Look at us, 72 points this season. 72 points. And for all you might think that's nothing, we also have 3 games remaining, so we can make potentially a total of 81 points. Not saying that's going to actually happen, but let's say if we even finish on 78 points, if we win our our next 2 fixtures, which should be doable, 78 points, or even if we finish right now on 72 points. The only time that has been matched or bettered in the last 17 seasons is 5 times. And that includes us winning the title. That includes us coming close second to Juventus in the 2011-2012 season, finishing third, finishing much higher off than we're finishing now. It has just been a very competitive league, and I feel like Pioli needs his praise when it comes to all fans in regards to how he's developed this team. And even more so, the fact that look at us where we were a year ago, getting demolished 5-0 by Atalanta, screaming him to be sacked after what was an embarrassing tenure by Gianpaolo's reign, and obviously Pioli had to pick up the pieces. He has done a remarkable job turning this team around and getting us, competing at least in the league and playing great football. And the result we saw on Sunday was just a way that fans really need to just stop being so critical on a guy who is I just feel like he resembles everything that the project is going down. And I'm not saying he's the coach for the future. He's not saying he's the coach to lead us to league title victories, or I don't know what it might be, but he's the coach that we need right now. So let him do his job and just trust him, because he's brought us this far with an inexperienced team. We're playing Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a 40-year-old striker up front who's injured for half the season. I feel like with a bit more investment, this coach can get us, surging more and more and more. But you're entitled to your opinion about Pioli, but I feel like the coach really needs to get the praise after this performance. Thirdly, let's talk about the players. And of course, this performance was nothing without the players. We can talk about the coach, we can talk about the fans, but the players needed to show up. And in recent weeks, we talk about how they've just not been taking their chances. They've just been very unclinical. And this was exactly what we wanted from the boys, especially, the ones who have been in recent weeks not playing to their high standards that we've seen before, like Fikayo Tomori, like Theo Hernandez, like Ismael Benacer. They had probably 9 out of 10 performances on the night, smashed it in every form of the way. And players that go under the radar like Davide Calabria, Alexis Salamakers, all these boys done amazing on the night. Even Hakan Çalhanoğlu had a decent game, got an assist. His cross was what led to the first goal eventually. The boys did well. The boys did really well. And you've got to think, in light of all the news, the negative news coming out with Donnarumma, not renewing yet. There was even that stuff about the social media at the start of last week about, Hakan unfollowing Ibrahimovic and putting the a video up of the shush emoji. And it felt like, to fans, it felt like everything was falling to pieces. We were going into the biggest game of the season with all this going against us. Even the squad was about to implode. The coach was apparently the wrong coach for us and getting it all wrong. They turned it round. So big up the players as well who showed up on the night and did the best performance of the season so far. And lastly, and a lot of people forget about this, praise to Maldini and management alike, who obviously support him in this role, whether it's Massara and co. The news hasn't been great for him. A couple of weeks ago, he did an interview saying he knew nothing about the European Super League, and he feels like, he's in the dark, and is he going to stay on after this year? Who knows? But what we're seeing right now is the fruits of Maldini's labour, where he's working. I did a video about this, about a month or so ago on this channel, talking about what he's had to work with, which is, not the biggest budget in the world. A lot of loan deals, a lot of low-risk loan deals, bringing in players such as Brahim Diaz, bringing in players like Diogo Dalot, bringing in players like Tomori and stuff like that. Like, they're all really doing amazing. So it's going to show you that we can succeed, or at least match our objectives that we want, with believable objectives, by the way, not obviously winning the league, because no fan in my right mind would have thought we would have won the league this season. And we have to put some perspective into it. Obviously, finishing top 4 is a massive achievement for a club who's not done that in nearly over half a decade. So we have to put some realistic perspective behind this all. And it just goes to show you that we can match these objectives. And if we can get the Champions League football, we can buy players like Fikayo Tomori outright, invest more into the squad, and the project, is showing that it can work. And the irony is that we're battering a team like Juventus, who is the polar opposite of this project. A team who spends willy-nilly on players' wages like Aaron Ramsey or Cristiano Ronaldo. And if you matched us our starting lineup against their starting lineup on the weekend, they would beat us because on paper they have the better names. But who plays more like a squad? Who plays more like a team? And that comes down to these players who are hungry, who are young, who are fast and energetic. It comes down to a coach who has a point to prove. Obviously, a lot more experience than Andrea Pirlo. So, sorry about that, Pirlo, but you've got to take this L this one time. But the point I'm trying to get here is that we need to praise Maldini and bringing it back to the coach. We need to stay consistent and show some continuity, because we've got to look at the rivals in the league. We've got to look at Lazio and Atalanta, who have a similar mould to us. They're not sacking their coach after missing out on top four or even scraping top four. They're keeping it because they need to keep the continuity going. What are Lazio without Simone Inzaghi at the helm? What are Atalanta without Gasperini at the helm? They would fall right off. And I feel like coaches sometimes don't get the credit they deserve. And also goes down to the club's hierarchy of producing sort of continuity and keeping that going into next year. So even like if we missed out on top four this season, I would have kept Pioli on, in my opinion, unless seriously a better coach came up. But Pioli's the guy for me, and I feel like with the top four finish hopefully locked in the next 2 or 3 games, we need to keep this going. We need to keep the train going. The project is leading forward. I'm not saying that this is like the answer. This recent victory against the dishevelled Juventus team is going to turn our fortunes around, and we're going to turn back into the team we were in 2020. But it's definitely a massive, impressive sign where fans just didn't see it coming. So praise has to go to the fans, Pioli, the players, management, Maldini, whoever you want to call it. It's just a big victory, and I'm just happy to see it because it's been a long time coming. Now, I said it towards the end of last week's video. We all hate Juventus. I hate them with a passion. And we finally gave them the drubbing that they've been giving us over recent years. And I loved every second of it. It could have been 4 if Kessie scored his penalty. We just outplayed them every form of the way. Tactically better than them. Energy levels we destroyed them. Players showed up. I was just so happy to see that game. Like screaming in my living room, watching every goal go in. That Rebic goal, oh my God, I could watch it 10 times over. It's just incredible performance. So, guys, I just want to wrap things up. There isn't really a topic here. I'm just talking about how this was a massive victory for everyone. And I just want us to be happy as a fan base because we deserve this victory. We deserve this. 10 years of just negativity, despair. This has been so deserved, and hopefully it goes off to wrapping up a top 4 finish. And guys, yeah, hopefully it comes in maybe by my video next week, we're going to have wrapped that up. So guys, until next time, keep supporting it. We're nearly there. We're nearly close to the objectives. We've got Torino tonight. And in Cagliari on the weekend. Let's just lock this in, guys. Until then, Forza Milan.